Let's now turn our attention to college football because we're going to be back on the air, it looks like, a week from today, which is Thursday, and that is the day after the big games. That's correct, right?
Yes,
Because
yes.
the big games are on Wednesday. That's New Year's Day. You got
one game. You got one game on Tuesday, the Penn State game,
the Fiesta Bowl.
The Fiesta Bowl, and then the other three are all spaced out on. I believe those are the only games on New Year's Day, if I recall, and they're spaced out nicely.
Yep, they are. And then you're also going to look at the following week's games, which are going to be on a Thursday and a Friday. So that's going to be the Orange and the Cotton Bowl. So keep that in mind. It's not no weekend games in the semis. Those are Thursday night and Friday night games to decide who's going to the national championship game.
We do have the highly anticipated bowl game on Saturday, January 4th, to end the official bowl game season between Liberty and Buffalo.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I don't understand. They do that like every year. The last bowl game is the game nobody wants to watch.
And it's the Bahamas Bowl, so I'll watch it for the scenery.
Yeah. It seems like Buffalo's always in the Bahamas Bowl. So we've got a playoff situation coming up where, again, it's going to be almost a week from now. But we know pretty much everything. I'm sure I'd be surprised if you guys didn't already know who you're going to go with. And we have all of the favorites won. I know that you hear people talking about the blowouts and such, and you hear about, but at least Indiana was here. It's like,
let's be accurate. You hear people whining about the blowout.
What's that?
You hear people whining about the blowout.
Yeah. And the thing was, though, the Clemson Texas game was actually the closest game, because that was a game that was you had a whole quarter to go before Texas made it a 2-score game, and Clemson still had a whole quarter to try to do something about it.
And they had that late goal line stop that Clemson might have made it a 7-point game, albeit it's unlikely they would have had another opportunity to score, but it could have made it a lot closer.
Yeah, the Indiana game, they were never in it. That was one of those things where Notre Dame just, okay, you want to score, you can score. We're just going to milk the clock, and there you go. And they got it's just nobody cared. So anyway, you've got the first matchup, which is going to be the Fiesta Bowl, Penn State and Boise. It's a big line. I'm not sure whether or not, what do you guys think about the line, first of all, being, what is it? Is it like up to 12 now? Something like that? First impressions on the Boise State, Penn State line. Are you surprised that the line is that big?
Yes and no, because Boise, they weren't as sharp late in the season as they were early, and maybe a lot of it had to do with trying to get Gentry the record and all that. It's a big game. Last week I think we all agreed that it was a big game for Penn State and Jim and Franklin. Even though it wasn't the big game, it was still at least an important. It was an important.
But this one isn't either. This one actually isn't either, though.
It is to the extent. It is to the extent that it puts them in the Final Four.
But you know what they'll say, and they'll be justified. But it wasn't against Oregon or Ohio State. Yeah. So
this is the one game. I was going to say this is the one game that I have not really made a strong opinion on of the four. I have on the other three.
Tony.
All right. No, give me 1 second. I'm gonna make my Notre Dame Georgia line, because unlike I'll make my line and then I'll go look at what it actually is. That's how the way I operate.
I won't say the line then until you go ahead and make it the line.
We're talking Penn State.
What do you think the line should be?
Penn State, Boise State?
No. You don't. Yeah. What do you think the line should be?
I have that down now. 8.5 and 53. So let me go look real quick.
I think it's 11.
It is 10.5. It opened 10.5 and 54.5, and now it is 11 and 52.5. So total wise, definitely in agreement. I really think that I'm definitely going to be on Boise State. I have them outright, but I think I respect the hell out of Penn State. Tyler Warren is another Brock Bowers type, I think, in that he'll hit the ground running in the NFL. I respect Kotelnicki and that offense, and I think he's imaginative. Yes, James Franklin hasn't won big games, and he's somewhat of an excuse maker, but I'm kind of a fan of his. I think he gets results. Respect what he did at Vandy and all of that. And certainly Drew Aller is a pretty good quarterback. I just think that Boise State is getting the shaft, maybe rightfully so because of the conference they're in. But tell me a big game, I'll wait, where they haven't shown up and imposed their will. And that includes Oregon.
You mean this season?
This season.
They
And
haven't
they
really.
haven't had many.
Oregon. No, I'm just saying that's the only game they played this year. That's a big game.
UNLV isn't big. UNLV the first time.
Well,
UNLV
no, I mean, but yeah, but you know, it's
in a
UNLV.
championship game.
No, I mean, but you can't really. Yeah, I mean,
well, look, I think that they.
I mean, you don't need to. I mean, you know, I don't think. My point is, you don't need to go past Oregon. That's all you need to do. That's fine.
I would be stunned.
That's respectful that they actually almost won that football game.
I would be stunned if Boise State gets blown out here. I think.
Oh, I don't think they're going to. Yeah, I agree.
So to me, like you know, the way that I make lines, it's somewhat of an expectation and what's in my mind, and they kind of marry the two. So it's kind of like a tip to me where if it's significantly one way, in this case it is, because it crosses the 10.5 into the 11 now. You know, 8.5 to me is like, all right, it's my expectation of how I view things and how the public's probably viewing it. And I would even go 7.5 on to that. I think Boise State's going to show up in this game. I personally think Boise State's going to win this game. I think we talked about that in our bracket picks, you know, last week. So, you know, that's where I stand on this. I respect Penn State. It's no slight against Penn State. I just think, what is it that Boise State put on their T-shirts? Keep doubting us, something along those lines. I'm gung ho on that. I think Genty is a difference maker of a running back, and obviously a running back can't make a difference unless you get the push up front. We'll see if they get that push up front, and if they do, they'll be able to pass off it because they have two pretty good receivers that can make some waves. So it'll be an interesting environment indoors. Certainly, it's
the Fiesta Bowl.
Right, it's in Glendale.
Oh, they're putting it back there. It used to be so much fun with the Fiesta Bowl. Where did they play? Was that at Arizona Stadium or Arizona State Stadium? Sun Devil Stadium?
Sun Devil Stadium. Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, yeah.
That used to be much funner when it used to be there.
It's been at State Farm for a while, for at least a
And,
decade.
and let's also forget, by the way, it's not a home game for Penn State. So
right,
you might not expect the same effort that it was last week.
Right.
And then I'm sure Penn State's going to travel, but you don't think that A, Boise will travel, and B, most
Absolutely
of the people there will get behind the underdog, the happy-go-lucky Ashton Genty led Broncos, a Cinderella story. So
Where's he from, by the way?
Huh?
Where's Genty from?
Texas, I think.
Okay, so he did get some support from the neighbor.
But I mean, bottom line, I just think this is going to be a tight game. I expect Boise State to win. I'll happily take the 10.5, 11.
Money line too?
Yeah, sure. Let me see it. It is plus 330.
That's about what I thought.
Do you have anything on the game yourself, Victor?
I got a couple of comments, guys. Like Jim, I got to take off in a couple of minutes. Let me throw the comments out. First off, I'm in agreement that the dog looks like a solid play in this game. I don't think Penn State wins by more 7-point win, maybe even a 3-point win. And if it's that low, and of course, and Mark's got in a 3-point game in the bowl stat report, I might add as well. So yeah, money line worthy, definitely for Boise State. I think the Idaho fans, it's not that much of a travel situation for them like it is Penn State traveling across the country. So I'm in total agreement that I love the points in that particular game. A couple of comments let me throw out real quick here, guys, and then I'll add one more bowl game that I'm really looking forward to. From what's been played over the last couple of days in regards to bowls, my two comments are I've always enjoyed the Hawaii Bowl on Christmas Eve. Who hasn't? It's a Christmas Eve tradition, Hawaii Bowl. But you know what? I believe now we need a Christmas Eve bowl doubleheader because I kind of got a little antsy after that game ended, the Hawaii Bowl. So I think they should consider a second Christmas Eve bowl game, maybe some sort of bowl game, Christmas Eve doubleheader.
Maybe
then
that's where they could play the Bahamas Bowl as the early game on Christmas Eve. So you've got
Why not?
Hawaii East and then the Hawaii Bowl
I
West
like it.
later in the day.
Both
I
in
like it.
paradise.
And then in regards to yesterday's action on Christmas Day, I believe the NFL has now played, I think it's 30-day games on Christmas Day since 1989, over a 35-year period. It's just under one per game, one per day average, no more than 3 NFL games on a Christmas Day in the past.
And
Usually
by the way, I
somewhere
believe
around 1 or 2.
that's also when the holiday falls on Sunday. They limit the number of games. They either play more on Saturday or more on Monday.
Or more on Monday. You're right.
Yeah.
But you know what I missed? I think there should be a new tradition, a Christmas night bowl game, because I started getting the shakes right after that Houston-Baltimore game ended yesterday, knowing that in bowl season, there's not a game on Christmas night. I think we deserve a new tradition. Also have a bowl Christmas night game.
You got to give
As
the
long as
kids
it's
a
not a
break,
blowout.
though. You got to give the kids a break, Victor.
I mean, wait a minute now, Andy, you just talked about it. We just went through that period in late October and November where there was football every single day of the week.
Except
like
Wednesday.
a 55-day period, right?
Yeah.
The
except
55
Wednesdays.
consecutive days.
Oh, no, Wednesdays including college, yeah.
Right, including college. So we're in the middle of the holiday season. There should be football every night.
Hey, they're entertainers, man.
That's the way it is.
I could
of the
understand
job.
the college games on Christmas Eve, because Christmas Eve is certainly more frequent that the families get together the night before Christmas morning and all that, the Christmas Eve, as opposed to Christmas night when, okay, the hullabaloo of the holiday is pretty much coming to an end, and an NFL game would make perfect sense.
Victor, you're not a basketball guy at all?
No. And
right.
I know the NBA is ruled on Christmas Day. I'm cool with that. But no, I have not done too much in regards to basketball. Guys, one more thing before I do got to take off. There's one bowl game that I'm looking forward to. It's an under the radar game that is on my list for must watch. And it's the game with the highest total, the First Responders Bowl in Gerald Ford Stadium, where SMU plays their home games in Dallas, Texas on January 3rd, Friday. That's the game that I'm looking forward to that maybe not a lot are. You got 2 teams from the state of Texas. We've been on many North Texas overs this season.
Yeah.
We've played a couple of Texas State overs this season. The line is somewhere around 63.5, 64, but it's the one game that I'm looking forward to, in addition, of course, to all the second round playoff games that I think should be a very entertaining game down there in Big D.
Well, what you could do next year, Vic, is you watch the first game on Christmas, you record the second game, you have dinner, you relax, you don't get anybody telling you what the score of the game is. Then after dessert, put the game on and you have a game to yourself. And you can just fast forward the commercials if you like. And there you go. Then you have your own Christmas night game all to yourself.
Fast forwarding Beyonce.
All right, Vic.
Guys, I got to take off. Outstanding show.
Yes. Thank you, Vic. And we'll see you in 2025, probably.
Happy New Year, Vic.
Both of you guys, right back at you guys. Thanks again, guys.
Thanks,
all right.
Vic.
By the way,
just to wrap up the Christmas Eve thing, NBA people are talking, because the NFL is kind of moved in. I don't know if you saw the LeBron, I love the NFL, but Christmas is always going to be the NBA. Well, the NBA took Christmas Eve off, and I don't think they should anymore. I think they should understand that the NFL is always going to be king. And while they should continue to keep their Christmas tradition, there's no reason that they should be taking Christmas Eve off anymore. So I think Christmas Eve should also feature some NBA games.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like the way the NHL does it. They take 3 days off.
Yeah, they take basically the whole week off. They're back Friday, right?
Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I think they take off. And then
yeah, and then they'll have like teams that have to play like 4 games in 6 nights or something like that. It's like, come on, man, you're killing these guys. But hey, I agree. It's nice to give them one little holiday around the holidays. All right. You know what I also want to remind everybody to do too is to check out the bowl guide, the bowl newsletter. Let's just take a look at one of our recent shows here on Proline TV for an example. And you go to the comment section, and here it is. Let's see. Here it is. To subscribe to the 2024 College Football Bowl Guide. What you got to do is there's the link, and you click the link, and there you go. You go right to the store catalog at playbooksports.com, and this is where all of the newsletters are that you can purchase. So you got the totals tip sheet here. You got the regular newsletters. You got the basketball newsletter that's coming, available January 10th. Tony's can't wait for that to come out. And like I said, we're going to be talking college basketball as early as probably January. I know on the network, the channel, it'll definitely be January. On this specific show, probably won't be until after the season ends, or at least after the college season ends, because we'll probably have more time, of course, when the college football season is over. And then there's only a couple of NFL games to talk about. That's when we can start slipping in some college basketball. And that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that might be the week. That might be the week when they play the wild card round.
Could be.
I think
that's possible.
I think the only game we would have to talk about in the college football would be the championship game.
Yeah, I think the semis
on the 20th.
Are that week, and then come the wild card game. I believe that's how they're doing.
Yeah.
So just taking a look at the calendar.
I think the semis might be the same week as the wild card.
Yep. Same week. So you've got the Orange Bowl is the 9th, the Cotton Bowl is the 10th, and the wild card game's on the 11th.
Right.
So like you said, then right after that, the next show, we'll only have one championship game to talk about, which will be, and then of course the NFL playoffs.
Yeah,
okay.
4 games instead of 6 on that divisional weekend.
So
4 games. 4 games instead of 6, I think, on the wild card weekend.
Yes. Let's talk about the other games. And Arizona State's a big dog against Texas. I expected them to be a dog, but I didn't expect the line to be this big because it's not in Texas. And to tell you the truth, I'm sorry, but I think Arizona State's just as good as Clemson. So they're just not getting any respect.
I think they're better than Clemson. I don't
they
think
might be better
win,
than Clemson.
But I think I've already bet Arizona State because I could see this line coming down. The only thing I'm concerned about is will they be able to carry that momentum over from having last played the first week of December, so it'll be 3.5 weeks or something that they will have been off. But they were playing as well as any team in the country down the stretch, and they were beating some pretty good teams as well within the Big 12.
Unfortunately, the thing that really is the big disappointment is not having their star receiver available. Yeah. It didn't hurt them against Iowa State, but that's not Texas. And now Texas gets all this additional time to prepare and see what they did without him. Yeah, it's really tough.
Well, so does Arizona State get to prepare to counter what Texas might be expecting because they won't have seen much of the replacement receivers. And, it sort of works a little bit both ways. And I'm really Sark has done a nice job, but I'm really impressed with what Dillingham has done in 1 year.
It's been an amazing job. And who would have thought that this would even be possible? But look, I'm not big on this. Is to me more. I think it's a combination of the fact that Arizona State's been playing so well, their confidence is sky high, and Texas is just overrated because again, everything going on in the SEC is overrated, and we saw that with the Tennessee blowout at Ohio State, completely overrated. So that's the way I'm looking at this. I love the 13.5. I agree, it's probably asking too much. But it's not look, I'll put a bet on the money line. I'm just going to put a lot on it, but I put a little bit on it. But the 13.5, 14, if you want to buy the half a point's up to you. But what I'm seeing actually is possibly you can get it at minus 105. So they're trying to lure you into not getting that extra half a point. But I think Arizona State's good enough to cover the 14. What do you guys think?
Well, I'm with you on that.
Go ahead, Andy. Because I
was just going to say because I mentioned it a little bit before Greg continued that I like. I don't think they can win the game. Doesn't mean I won't make a little play on it, but I took 14 when that line first came out. I mean, within the first 6 hours or whatever, because I do like what they've done. I like the quarterback play that had been overshadowed by Scabadoo or Scadaboo. With him getting all the deserved attention, and the defense has played decently well enough. And I was concerned about Texas's defense against Clemson which was supposedly the best defense that Clemson would have seen all year, outside of the defense they saw at Georgia at the beginning of the year, which as we later saw, was not as good a Georgia defense as we've seen in years past. So the fact that Clemson was able to have that kind of success against Texas is a little bit concerning, because I could see Arizona State not being that much different from Clemson.
Yeah, very disappointed in Clemson's defense, no question about it. In that matchup.
Texas defense I'm talking about.
Well, I was also disappointed in Clemson's defense, but yeah, both defenses. Because the thing that was disappointing about Texas's defense was that everybody knew they couldn't run the football. Everybody.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't know what these announcers. I mean, this is why some of these announcers I really can't stand them, because they're so lazy. For them to talk like they talk like they're bringing up this injury situation with Maffa, like they don't know, dude. The guys, everybody in the world knows he can't move. So why are you making this to be an issue as this game is going on? There's no news story here. Everybody knew the kid couldn't play. So
I would blame a lot of that on the staff that prepares the scouting reports for the announcers, because the announcers, they do so many games, they can't be totally up to date on all the teams that they cover. Well, that's the job of the network scouting people.
Yeah, whoever is to blame, bad job, and also bad job by the other thing. While we're on it, I really can't stand the play-by-play guys that can't just do their job. You know what play-by-play means? Understand the numbers, the jerseys, the players on it, and that's all I want to hear from you. The color guy, he can say whatever he wants. And that's why I think Al Michaels is great, because Al Michaels was specifically before every play, when every play's done, he's going to tell you who made the tackle, and he's always going to point that out. It's almost like, you're an extension of the scoreboard guy telling you exactly what's going on, who made the tackle, and everything. That's your job as the play-by-play guy. And I'm sick and tired, because yesterday I was watching that Houston-Baltimore game, and Houston had these awful jerseys, and I couldn't read what the hell the names on the jerseys were.
Is that what the beef was about the jerseys, the numbers? I think the jerseys were sharp, but most people
read the names.
They thought they were awful.
What was that? Red on gray or something like that?
It was red on blue.
Blue, okay.
So there were a couple of plays that went on. I'm like, I don't know who that is. Who did that? And they didn't. Nobody said anything. Play-by-play guy had didn't even mention who that player was who was in the play on defense. And it's just so bad. It's so lazy. Tony, who do you like?
And by the way, that's especially important what you say, Greg, with fantasy players now, playing college football, and both offense and defense, that they want to know what's going on in the game, as opposed to just waiting for the box score to come out.
But everybody's got an ego nowadays, and you got to get your 2 cents in, and you got to say, these really, creative, wow plays, and get your 2 cents in. All right, Tony, what do you think? Do you think the line's too big, or Texas going to rock?
Lines is obviously too big. I think you hit it right on the head. It's the SEC overrated, and the Big 12 being disrespected. And look, again, I watched the Big 12 probably as much as most people that really follow the Big 12.
Central Florida, of course.
Right, that's my team, and
So
I want to know
them
what's
in the
going on in the
opponents.
conference. And most of these games, because there is no Big 12 network. Most of these games are on ESPN Plus, which I subscribe to, so you can go back and watch them archived and all of that. So I've seen all these teams. Now I'm looking at it just to be fair. The Arizona State, first of all, they played UCF, but they played them without Scatterby. And UCF led that game. Really convincingly led that game at one point. Then led them back, and in the fourth quarter there was a very controversial late penalty that allowed Arizona State to survive. Otherwise, they wouldn't even be in the spot. But they haven't really played. I think their toughest game, honestly, is at Kansas State. They got BYU at home. They got a depleted Utah at home, and they really haven't played anybody. Their best non-conference game was Mississippi State, which obviously was a doormat in the SEC. So I understand the line, but I made it 10. Texas minus 10. So to see it at 13.5, that's where it's open, and it hasn't budged. Will it budge closer to kickoff? Probably with with sharp money and people hoping for chaos and wanting to fade Texas, it'll probably get down to 13, 12 and a half. I don't see any way that it doesn't. I'll say that Levitt is not a fluke.
By the way, you don't think that the general public at large will say, "Oh, it's Texas" and all that, and they won't have heard of Arizona. I'm talking about the casual player that adds up to a lot of people and a lot of money.
Right, but
they know Texas.
But
they don't know Arizona State.
To bump it to 14.
Yeah, that's already a lot of points.
Well, that's when the professional buyback comes.
Right. Absolutely. So Levitt is really talented. He's made a lot of strides. I remember him at Michigan State not thinking much of him.
He was terrible at Michigan State. Yeah.
But he's he was pretty good this year.
Well, look at Hauser. Hauser was nothing and then he goes to East Carolina and now he's looking pretty decent. So that's why they have a new coaching staff.
And so how will he get along without Jordan Tyson? That's crucial. And then Scadaboo is no fluke. I mean, this guy is not a fluke.
No.
So if they can get any push up front, he's going to be able to eat up clock, extend drives, and break tackles. Doesn't matter if you play for Texas or Georgia or whoever. I mean, that guy is a legitimate running guy.
Texas has a really good run defense. And
Texas's defense is the strength of the football team.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the hype is on Ewers and the depth of that offense, of the running back room and the offensive line. But the strength of this year's Texas team and the reason why they would win a national championship if they pull through is a very talented defense that I don't think a lot of people saw coming. But again, too many points for me. It's probably something that I'll stay away from. And then as far as if I make a play on the game, I think it's going to be a lower scoring game than expected. I think Arizona State's best bet without Tyson is to chew up clock and hope to make it a fourth quarter game. And if Sarkisian sees that early, I think he pulls back on the bells and whistles and just tries to win this game straight up. So, I mean, to me, it's a 10-point game, maybe 27-17, and that gets me to 44. Numbers at 52. Give me the under.
I think the key may very well be Levitt. Clemson only ran for 76 yards against Texas. They passed for 336. So if they can work out the receiver issue or maybe use the running backs as receiving options and they can do what Clemson was able to do passing and, occasionally have some, do you stop Scadaboo? Well, you do if you have a decent, you don't if you have a decent passing game to complement him. And that may be part of the Arizona State game plan is we got to mix in a lot more passing than maybe we would like to because that will give Scadaboo, number one, fewer rush attempts because they'll be passing more. That means he's fresher in the third and fourth quarter.
Arizona State's best game definitely was the Iowa State win in the Big 12 championship, just because of the of what was involved and how really dominant they were in that game.
And without Tyson.
Right. So it was without Tyson. It can be done. We'll see if they hang around. They've got to get either stay even, certainly in the turnover battle. If they win it, then they've got a shot to maybe be in that game in the fourth quarter.
Well, that's the thing. Arizona State does have one of the best turnover margins in the nation. Yep. And they're going to need it, no question. They can't win this game without it. Look, if you look at that Clemson game, they had several opportunities that they just didn't take advantage of. I mean, you had what could have been a pick six if the dope doesn't get a penalty on the return. Stupid idiot. That's 7 points. You take points off the board right there. And there were a few other circumstances in the game that they just not take advantage of. And that's what you have to do. Arizona State, when the advantage is there, you've got to take advantage of it. And if you don't, you're not going to pull the upset off. You're not going to pull double-digit upsets off by not taking advantage of the opportunities that are there right in front of you. And that's what Arizona State has to do. As far as the other two games, you have Notre Dame and Georgia. And look, I don't care what anybody says. Nobody has any idea how this Gunnar Stockton kid's going to play. No idea. It's just a guess. And some people could say, well, they're going to rally around the backup quarterback, even though he played in the last game, he's going to start and it's a different setting and they're going to rally and blah, blah, blah. Or, hey, you know what? He's actually better. All right, well, let's see, but it's just one game. We don't even know. He can go out there and throw for 400 yards and it'll be the best game of his career. Or he could throw for 100 yards and he's going to be better than Carson Beck. So we have no idea how to react to this. With Notre Dame, I'm starting to feel even worse about their chances when now that they've lost Mills. It's one thing to lose Morrison. Now you lose Mills. It's starting to get to a point where it's like, come on. I mean, it's I gave you Morrison. I don't know. I got to give you Mills too. So it's asking a lot. But I do think we're going to be in for just another really, sort of similar type of game that we saw with Texas. I think it's a similar type of matchup where we're going to get probably lower scoring, I would guess, unless turnovers turn into points. Turnovers obviously going to be big. And Notre Dame's defense is legit. And will they be good enough to create turnovers for a quarterback that has no experience, playing in a game that is this big? So look, we saw what happened in the Alabama-Georgia series when what was it? Who was it? Was it Bryce Young? Who was it that was the quarterback for Alabama, and then the freshman came in? Was Bryce Young the freshman at the time who came in? Remember?
No, it was Tua, and
it was Tua. Yes. Who was the other one?
It was Tua in for
who was the starter? Yeah, I don't remember who it was.
No, it wasn't Hurts, was it?
Yeah, it was Jalen Hurts.
Okay.
I wasn't sure how far back he went.
So it happens. It can happen. A young kid, young freshman can come in and he can play big. Because Georgia's defense is really good and Notre Dame's one-dimensional. So you would think that he'll get his chances as long as he doesn't turn the ball over. But you know how I think about the SEC. So, yeah, we'll see. I think it's just going to be one of those games. It's just going to come down to whoever makes the most important plays.
Given the fact that Notre Dame was a national power for people who are in their 50s and 60s and not to those who are in their 30s and 40s, and Georgia has been nothing but a national power for those in their 30s and 40s, I'm surprised that this line is as low as it is, and I wouldn't be surprised if it goes up a little bit. I'm going to be on Notre Dame. I think they can win the game. I like the way they played all year. They had that one hiccup after they beat A&M at A&M in the Labor Day weekend game, and they put away a lot of opponents. Now they didn't play a lot of really strong opponents, but then again, your opinion about the SEC makes you wonder, what the great games that the teams that Georgia faced. Although clearly better than that of Notre Dame. Although Notre Dame, and again, we know they weren't a strong team, but they defeated both Army and Navy when they were unbeaten.
Yeah,
I mean, you're still beating a team that is two teams that are playing with great confidence and believe they can win every time they take the field. And they were hammered. I think they lost by like 47 or 49 points in those two games. And they had some other nice wins. And I don't see why they can't beat Georgia. And I'm wondering why this line is as low as it is, because you have to again Notre Dame's not really been a factor.
Why? What do you think it should have been?
I would have said at least 3. Just based on reputation and familiarity, of the wagering public. They all know about Georgia. They know that Georgia beat Texas twice this year. And, as I mentioned, Notre Dame hasn't been relevant. Well, they had a good season about a decade ago. But as far as their real relevance goes, you're talking about people who, grew up watching college football in the 70s and the 80s and maybe the early 90s. Well, so I'm surprised the line is that low.
Did we have a hypothetical line before? Because I would be interested to find out if Beck was starting.
6.5, which is what I had it.
So if Beck was starting, it would have been 6.5 then?
Correct. And I mean, I just did this because, again, I do all my numbers, and I can't talk about games unless I do my numbers. So the number I have written down right here was originally 7. And then I said, oh, that's right. They ruled out Beck. I'll go 5.5.
That would have made sense.
1 is wild to me.
Yeah,
that
worries me. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if people are expecting the money to come in on Georgia, and they may very well be laying the 1.5, figuring they're going to get 3.5 maybe on the way back.
Yeah, and currently, I mean, it's barely budged, and the current splits that I'm looking at is fairly even. So we'll see if approaching kickoff, we'll see a little Georgia money, and it ticks closer to 3 because it has moved from 1 to 1.5. Some 2s out there. Look, I think Gunnar Stockton. First of all, they had all the success with Stetson Bennett, who I believe was a walk-on.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Gunnar Stockton was a top 15 recruit. He's not your, conventional backup quarterback where you're saying, oh, this guy, clearly there's a huge drop off. first of all, Carson Beck had a lackluster year for what we expected from him. So
he could actually make Georgia more of a national
Well,
championship
by the
team
way,
than I think they were going to be with Beck.
Keep
You're
in
right.
mind that Beck last year had a much better supporting cast than he had this year, and the
sure.
backup is going to have that same downgraded supporting cast.
You've got two of the top receiving rookie threats in the NFL,
yeah.
Bowers and McConkey
McConkey,
as his guys. That was and so now you have what, it's been a month, and they've known that Beck isn't going to go.
Yeah.
You get this guy Stockton playing first team reps with a receiving core, where a lot of these guys he's probably been with all season long as the backups. So I think there's going to be some depth at receiver for, with what they can do in the game plan. You also have Trevor Etienne. He was, touch and go for the final month of the regular season, played in the SEC championship game, now should be a lot healthier. So you got two pretty good backs. I think Georgia rolls in this game. Notre Dame rolls.
I have a question, and I don't know the answer. Maybe either of you do. Have any SEC teams played in bowl games yet?
Yeah, Texas.
Oh, okay.
And
I want
Tennessee.
Okay, Tennessee, because I want to see, well, any of the games that we play, because I want to see leading up to the game how the other SEC teams perform. Because as you said, Greg, you think that that the SEC is somewhat overrated. Well, let's see what happens in some of these SEC matchups with some of the better teams in the conference going up, like Missouri against Iowa, or Arkansas against Texas Tech. Not that Arkansas is much.
I guess as long as everybody's healthy, sure.
On Friday, you'll get the first doses of that. Vandy, Georgia Tech, Oklahoma Navy, and Arkansas, Texas Tech.
And then you've got
that's good, yeah.
And you've also got Alabama, Michigan coming up. I think
and USC A&M as well.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
as long as everybody's playing, that's a good barometer. And even in these two games, Tennessee gets blown out, and again, Texas. Let's keep in mind, it was a 7-point game in the fourth quarter.
Yep,
against a team that barely got into the playoffs. Okay, so nobody was singing the praises of Clemson going into the playoffs in Texas.
What was the most points that Texas gave up this year? Was it the 30?
It might have been the game. Yeah, they hadn't given up. That might have been it.
Yeah, because they had a good run of under 17.
Yeah,
they're good defense, and yet without knowing no running game, knew it. Everybody knew it. They still gave up all those passing yards.
Klubnik was really impressive.
But the problem is for Notre Dame, they don't have the receivers that Klubnik has. So they can't throw the ball. They just can't.
Well, they have
Riley Leonard has to be flawless for this game I think to be tight in the fourth quarter. Again, you mentioned the injuries. Notre Dame along the way has lost their defensive captain, and now a huge loss again.
Yeah, it's
so
now.
With those losses on Notre Dame's defense, would you say that Georgia's defense at this stage is the better defense, and if so, a lot better or marginally better? Because we're not talking about Notre Dame at full strength.
Right, marginally better. But I would say that you also have to say that from an experience standpoint, you've got to ride Smart and his coaching staff over Freeman and his. I mean, there are so many advantages to see this number at 1 as the opener, technically 6.5, but one is to where it is.
Yeah.
Once this announcement was made, that was kind of a given, and now maybe creeping to 2. You ride Georgia on the money line. That'll be my play. I mean, if anybody's watching this is going to be my best bet for the CFP. That I'll be charging money for.
That line is suspiciously low.
And if Notre Dame is going to have any success, they're going to have to rely on Jeremiah Love to have a huge game. Everybody's talking about Genty as well as they should, but Love is going to be the Genty of 25. He is an awesome running back. He is going to be one of the best running backs that come out of Notre Dame in a long time. When he comes out in the 26th draft, he had that huge play last week to show everybody just a little glimpse of how good he is. And he has to play well. He has to get at least, I would say, 150. And they got another good back too. It's not just him, but he has to have the big game.
This is it for Riley Leonard, right? He's done.
Yeah.
Yep. He's done. Yeah.
I wonder who the quarterback's going to be next year, because Notre Dame could be excellent next year because they just added Pauling from Wisconsin as one of their receivers for next year. They should have a significantly more depth. They've got the backs that you're talking about. A lot of the defensive players are back. So if they get a quarterback, we'll be talking about Notre Dame again. In the CFB.
That's one of the things I'm talking about as far as injuries, especially on defense. All of these teams, they recruit 2, 3, 4 deep. Most of the guys who are going to take over for Notre Dame's injured players, especially the key ones, could probably start on 2/3 of the teams in the nation. Now, it's a negative issue. Certainly during the regular season when you've got 1 week to prepare and you don't have your best players in there. Well, with 3 weeks to prepare, now you have an opportunity to give at least those guys an ability to work with the guys who have been starters all year and be able to learn a little bit, to be able to recognize what the positioning needs to be. So Notre Dame's defense may not be as adversely affected in this game as it would have been as if they were playing, say, if they just played like a week or two ago.
Looks like it's going to be a battle next year, as of now, unless they get a transfer between Steve Angeli, he's a sophomore, and CJ Carr, a true freshman who was their top recruit this year. So those are the two kids that are going to be battling it out. So they're going to have a lot of youth, unless they go the transfer portal way, which is probably what they'll do. They'll get a guy for 1 year to give these kids.
It's been portal the last couple of years with them.
Yeah, so that's probably the way they'll go again.
But most of the portal quarterbacks are gone.
Well, we don't know where Mateer's going yet.
Yeah, we do.
He made his decision.
Where did he? Oh, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So that's where he's going for sure. Wow. So wasn't he the one that was? He was considered like the top guy in the portal, I believe.
Yeah, Mateer kind of number one. He's going to OU. Some other kids that Mendoza.
I feel sorry for Oklahoma fans. They were probably hoping this wouldn't happen. Now, they're never going to get rid of Venables.
Arnold went to Auburn, right?
Yes, Jackson Arnold, and they got some other guys. So
they got two guys. Yeah. So that's going to work.
Auburn should be back next year.
All right. So Oregon
did they change,
Ohio State.
Did Auburn change coaches that I missed?
No,
but I don't hate on what's his name. Yeah, I just think he's obnoxious, and I've kind of chuckled at first of all, Auburn fans think that they should win the national championship
every year,
regardless of who's on the roster. But Peyton Thorne has been
he's so awful
as a quarterback there last year.
All right, and then the big one, and by the way, we'll have a video. I'm doing interviews. I already did one today with Kevin Noon from Buckeye Huddle, so that's on our lads. That'll be available. We'll have a edited version here on Proline TV probably tomorrow. Same thing with my interviews tomorrow. Notre Dame. Going to speak to Kyle Kelly of the On3 Network and blueandgold.com, and also for Georgia, Jed May from UGAsports.com. So I'm going to find out from, I guess, the horse's mouth as much as I can about Gunnar Stockton. So those edited versions will be available here on Proline TV. You can get the full versions at our lads. And I'm speaking with Rob Mosley, who covers the Ducks. He's the editor for the Oregon Ducks website, and we're trying to hook up.
He's been on that beat forever.
Oh yeah. And he's really done a great job, and hopefully we'll get him in the next couple of days. So look out for those interviews. But again, Oregon, Ohio State, I was surprised in a way, especially because Kevin looked at the line in advance. He said, if Ohio State beats Indiana, if Ohio State beats Tennessee, right now it's Oregon 1.5. And Ohio State wins the game, and now it's 2.5 Ohio State. So even the future line changed 3 points, I guess, because of how Ohio State dominated Tennessee. But
and they nearly beat Oregon at Oregon early in the year, but for some.
Well, but I'm saying it was 1.5 prior, and then it changed. I'm sorry, but every time we talked about this last year with Oregon and Washington. And now if I lose, I'm going to lose, and I won't be surprised because Ohio State, we know how talented they are. But I just can't go against the team that beat the other team, and now they're the dog again. And I understand, like you said, it's not on home floor; it's a neutral site.
What's the Ohio State favorite in that first meeting? 1.5 or
yes,
something?
Same thing. I think we might have been but I might have been
maybe one a little higher.
More than that. Yeah. So I get all that. Matter of fact, I think the winner of this game is probably going to win the national championship. Not even probably. I'm going to go out and just say that's it. The winner will win the national championship. I get all of that, but again, I have to take Oregon just on that belief right there. I'm just surprised. No matter how good Ohio State looked, and they looked awesome, I just think Oregon's getting majorly disrespected here by being the dog. What do you guys think?
I think Oregon has a better quarterback.
They do.
And their defense, I think, is often overshadowed by the play of the offense. I think the defense played fairly well this year in the Big Ten, not knowing what to expect. So I do like Oregon in this game.
My number that I made was exactly on minus 254. I think the total is 55 now. Look, I was dead wrong on Ohio State, Tennessee. I thought that was the best game I've ever seen Will Howard play. He was awesome, and then he had the best line I heard thus far during the bowl season. He said, "Let it be known that the South came up and the North remembered, and conquered, and it conquered." And it was hilarious the way he delivered that.
I was just going to say two things on that. Number one, I think Ohio State came out of that out of the locker room to start the game with a pissed off attitude that will show you that, yeah, Michigan, we're over that. We're going to show we're the better team. We were the better team against Michigan, and they showed it. And maybe Tennessee wasn't prepared for it. And of course, the other thing is this game is being played on a neutral surface as opposed to Ohio Stadium.
I mean, Oregon's my national champion, so I'm not going to deviate here. I'll just exercise a lot more caution than I would have. Finally seeing what Ohio State can be. Because that was the best game Ohio State's played all season by a long shot. I mean, look, they just clicked on every single cylinder. Running game, passing game. Jeremiah Smith's the best receiver in the country. But Tess Johnson's, he's right there too. So this has the potential to be such a classic. Obviously, the first one was very close. I went and looked it up, Greg. Closing number was anywhere from Ohio State minus 3 to 3.5. In that loss in Eugene. Yeah. I'm sticking with Oregon, but no, the line doesn't surprise me at all. It's what I expected to be. And then if you like the Ducks, obviously take the points. If you like Ohio State, ride the money line.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be one of those games that is just going to come down to who makes the big plays at the end. Ohio State could not make the big plays in their first matchup. Matter of fact, that last drive, late in that drive, was just really embarrassing. The way the players handled it, the coaching staff handled it, it was not good. So they deserved to lose that game, and yet they were one play away from winning the game on a very iffy call. Could have went either way. I mean, if they didn't call the offensive pass interference on JJ, nobody would have said anything. So it just shows you, that's what I'm saying. I think whoever gets those little calls, makes those kind of big plays in this game, probably going to be the team who wins it. Greg, should be a great game.
Greg, what do you take out of the way that Tennessee played in Ohio State? Is that further validation for your SEC opinion, or does it say that almost any team could not have competed with Ohio State that day, or a little of both?
More that the SEC is overrated. Yeah. I mean, again,
because it has to be that line, that opening line of Ohio State, since you said what it was going to be before, had to be reaction simply to the way they blew out Tennessee.
Had to be, yeah. And I think that's the thing, is that you would think, look, a lot of people still. The funny thing though is, like you guys said about the Georgia line, is that we would say, well, maybe they're finally showing a little respect for the SEC, but that's not the case, because Texas is a 13.5-point favorite against Arizona State. So I guess we can't say that. So
that's a lack of respect for Arizona State.
Yeah, that too.
But again, quality of competition can sort of justify it being that high. But as Tony said, I was surprised that it was higher than 10.